The Simpsons, the longest-running American sitcom, has kept us entertained for over 3 decades with its witty humor, satirical takes on society, and heartwarming family storylines. But what has truly astounded fans and skeptics alike is the show's bizarre knack for predicting future events with creepy accuracy. These aren't just vague coincidences either. We're talking eerily specific foreshadowings of everything from obscure inventions to major global crises that would unfold years later in real life. It's almost as if the writers at Simpsons had a crystal ball specifically tuned to the future. So how did a crude, animated comedy manage to prophesy so many major real-world events? Is there a psychic scribe secretly working behind the scenes at Simpsons Studios? Or could the writers just have wildly impressive foresight to envision such intricate future scenarios? Let's take a look at 15 of the most incredible moments in which The Simpsons appeared to predict the future. Prepare to have your reality shook as we reveal these weird predictions one by one. Number 1. The coronavirus pandemic. Back in 1993, a Simpsons episode titled Margin Chains bizarrely predicted the deadly coronavirus pandemic that brought the world to its knees in 2020. In a passing joke, the episode featured an Asian factory worker coughing a thick virus-laden mist all over the juicers that The Simpsons had purchased. While obviously over the top in its comedic portrayal, it was still a strangely accurate foreshadowing of the real-life COVID-19 originating from Wuhan, China, and rapidly spreading across the globe, leading to citywide lockdowns, face mask mandates, and product shortages, just like the one for juicers in the episode. Number 2. Trump's presidency. In the 2000 Simpsons episode Bart to the Future, the show jokingly depicted a scenario where a grown-up Bart had to grapple with budget crises created during the presidency of Donald Trump. This shocking prediction aired a full 16 years before Trump's surprise victory over Hillary Clinton in 2016. The episode didn't stop there either. It accurately foresaw Trump's comb-over hairstyle, wealthy businessman background, and even featured a segment inside the Oval Office with biting satirical references to Trump's character and governing style before he had even announced his candidacy. Number 3. The discovery of the Higgs boson particle. Decades before scientists confirmed the existence of the elusive God particle in 2012, The Simpsons had already featured it in a 1998 episode. In the episode The Wizard of Evergreen Terrace, Homer becomes an inventor and his creations are analyzed by a truck with a banner that reads, "Exemplary landing for the Higgs boson, next theoretical doom." This bizarre reference to the Higgs boson, a particle that gives mass to all matter and whose discovery eluded scientists for half a century, was just another shockingly prophetic prediction to add to the pile for The Simpsons. Number 4. Disney acquisition of Fox, start of streaming wars. The landmark $71 billion acquisition of 20th Century Fox's film and television assets by Disney was foreshadowed by The Simpsons a full 20 years earlier in 1998. The episode showed a sign with 20th Century Fox being chiseled away by animated workers, soon to reveal the Walt Disney Company, perfectly predicting the media merger 2 decades in advance. What's more, that same episode seemed to anticipate the rise of the streaming wars, depicting a scene with the aged Ronald McDonald being rendered obsolete by a futuristic kids advertisement featuring animatronic mascots Lil Hungry Boys. Number 5. Siegfried and Roy tiger attack. In a bizarre 1993 episode of The Simpsons, the family visits a show in Las Vegas featuring a German showman being mauled by a hungry white tiger. This was an eerily specific parody of the 2003 real-life tiger attack that nearly killed famous entertainment duo Siegfried and Roy during their Las Vegas magic act. 10 years before the horrific real event, The Simpsons had practically recreated the entire scene from start to finish, depicting the exact players, setting, animal involved, and bloody consequences, a strange bit of foreshadowing that still has fans scratching their heads. Number 6. Violence at U.S. Capitol. In the 1996 episode, The Day the Violence Died, The Simpsons featured a scene depicting riots and anarchy unfolding around Capitol Hill. Animated rioters can be seen scaling the walls and scaffolding surrounding the Capitol building amidst thick clouds of smoke. This jarring foreshadowing seemed to predict the shocking real-life events on January 6, 2021, when a violent mob of Trump supporters stormed the U.S. Capitol in an attempt to overturn the 2020 election results. While hyperbolic in its portrayal, the imagery of chaos and lawlessness descending on the nation's capital was uncannily close to the real events that transpired 25 years later. Number 7. Apple Watch. The Simpsons once again demonstrated its technological clairvoyance by seemingly predicting the invention of the Apple Watch and other smartwatch devices decades before such advancements became reality. The 1995 episode Lisa on Ice included a strange scene where the family's communications were conducted through wrist-based video devices that looked remarkably similar to today's smartwatches and FaceTime technology. While odd in its time, this impossibly prescient gag proved the Simpsons writers had a knack for envisioning our digital future long before Silicon Valley caught up. Number 8. Disney's acquisition of 20th Century Fox. While many are aware that The Simpsons predicted Disney's eventual $71 billion acquisition of 20th Century Fox Studios way back in 1998, fewer realize they actually doubled down on this bombshell prediction a full 19 years earlier. In the 1979 episode Bedroom Boxer, which aired during The Simpsons' first season as sketches on The Tracy Ullman Show, a gag is included depicting a sign being changed from 20th Century Fox to the Walt Disney Company. Amazingly, the writers included this Disney takeover joke years before the merger between the two media giants was even a consideration. Number 9. Faulty voting machines decide election. It might sound far-fetched, but over a decade before the 2012 U.S. presidential election fiasco with faulty voting machines in Ohio, The Simpsons had parodied this very premise in 2008. The episode Woo Who Done It depicts a scene where an election recount descends into chaos, thanks to a rigged voting machine that ignores votes to award the victory to one candidate. The Simpsons writers seem to have a preternatural insight into the glaring vulnerabilities of electronic voting technology that would help sway real-life elections years later. Number 10. Horse meat scandal. In 1994, The Simpsons included a bizarre scene where the lunch ladies at Springfield Elementary were revealed to be using an obscure meat animal called a hairy plopper to make the cafeteria's hamburgers. 19 years later, in 2013, the world was gripped by a real-life scandal when European food inspectors discovered multiple processed food companies had been secretly substituting horse meat into beef products sold across Ireland, the UK, and elsewhere. While obviously played for laughs, The Simpsons writers had once again managed to predict a seemingly unthinkable food industry practice that not only wound up parodying the future, but giving the 1994 episode new social relevance in hindsight. Number 11. Ebola Outbreak. A 1997 episode titled Lisa's Sacks featured an offhand joke by a Springfield doctor alarmingly referencing Ebola fever. While seemingly random at the time, this throwaway line foreshadowed the real-life Ebola virus epidemic that erupted in West Africa in 2014, causing a global health crisis. Before the deadly outbreak, most Americans had never even heard of the Ebola virus. So, for The Simpsons writers to include such an obscure reference over 15 years prior seems too coincidental to be mere chance. Just another example of the show's writers having an uncanny ability to envision major future events. Number 12. Tomacco Hybrid mirrored by GM tobacco plants. In a classic 1998 episode, The Simpsons satirized the concept of an unholy genetic hybrid by depicting Homer inventing a new form of life he called Tomacco. Tobacco spliced with tomatoes to combine the harsh, addictive qualities of cigarettes with the family-friendly appeal of fruit. While obviously played for laughs, this wild idea seemed to predict a real-life 2011 controversy when biotech firms were discovered creating experimental hybrid tobacco plants intended to produce proteins for vaccines and antibodies. Like Homer's absurd Tomacco, these hybrid GMOs combine disease-fighting properties with one of the world's most deadly consumer products, tobacco. Number 13. CERN's particle accelerator. Search for Higgs boson. Years before it was even built, The Simpsons seemed to correctly anticipate the construction and purpose of CERN's Large Hadron Collider, which helped confirm the existence of the Higgs boson particle in 2012. In a 1998 episode, the show featured a scene at a nuclear research facility with a sign clearly labeled Oversized Particle Accelerator. Years later, in 2008, CERN unveiled their real-life underground particle accelerator designed to smash subatomic particles together at extreme energies to recreate conditions similar to the Big Bang, exactly like the one parodied over a decade earlier by The Simpsons. Number 14. Smart home assistants like Alexa. Long before smart home assistants like Alexa, Siri, and Google Home hit the market, The Simpsons was predicting their rise in an obscure 1994 episode titled Dollar Pringfield. In the episode, the family installs a Ultra House 3,000 inches smart home system that uses voice commands to control the entire house, from heating to entertainment to appliances. Watching the animated Home Assistant field queries and control the home with dialogue is eerily similar to the advent of Alexa, Echo, and other real-life smart home AIs that arrived over 2 decades later. The Simpsons writers continue to prove their knack for predicting future technology years before it becomes reality. Number 15. The Invention of Autocorrect. One of The Simpsons' earliest tech predictions dates back to a 1994 episode where the characters are using an early mobile device called a wizard that appears to autocorrect Homer's speech to display different words than he intended. This throwaway gag is now seen as the first instance of the show foreseeing the autocorrect feature that wouldn't actually become a standard mobile technology until over a decade later with the release of the first iPhones in 2007. Despite being created in the pre-smartphone era, The Simpsons writers had already conceived the idea of text autocorrection. Woo! After examining 15 of The Simpsons' most eerily accurate predictions, from major global events to minor tech innovations, it's hard not to feel a little unsettled. Have the show's writers been provided with a direct pipeline from the future this whole time? Or do they just possess a nearly supernatural gift for envisioning the world to come with mind-boggling clairvoyance? Whatever the explanation, one thing is clear. Dismissing these prophetic storylines as mere coincidences grows more implausible each time we add a new premonition to the list. Keep watching reruns with an eagle eye, because who knows what other future events The Simpsons may have already subtly foreshadowed.